Hey everybody, I'll get my Let's Plays back on the go again next couple days. It's been a hectic month between family was in and, just doing summer stuff. Not really wanting to be tied to the computer, but it's cooler weather now, so I can actually probably, sit down and record more. But I redid a thing. I took my Raspberry Pi that I had in the modem casing and put it in this. Basically, it's a David's Tea gift box, and inside you can see there is all the gubbins in there. I wired everything by hand, solder iron, bit of hot glue for things here and there, just the holding components, and salvage a fan, a few other things. I'm gonna go and we're gonna cut to that in depth now in a minute. But just to preface this, I'm using a Pi 1B again. Basically just stuff from when I was getting into high school and earlier. So everything to when I started playing games up until probably like grade 11, maybe 12. I started dabbling in PlayStation and Nintendo 64 by then, but I didn't have any of those systems of my own. I had a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo, a Game Boy, and a Tandy 1000RL. Which is the only thing that's not on here is DOSBox as of yet. I have a keyboard there and I can easily hook a mouse in. There's 3 front ports as always, as well as a rear port for accessory. And that's one of the connections, and I'm going to show in the other video the overview of what it is that what's in here. But yeah, it's just for composite for the Samsung behind me. The 240p nearest vertical shader, nearest vertical integer shader really works really well. As well, this gives me an opportunity to redo the video. A friend of mine boosted the audio from the video that I'd done on this Pi in its previous incarnation, but I didn't really bother to re-upload. But now I'm just going to do something fresh with a new little case, and it stands up on its side quite well. I got little feet on the bottom. This is how it's supposed to look, all business, and that's a blue LED. Power off button is on here. Barry Hubbard, and then later on reiterated by ETA Prime on YouTube, show how to connect this to pins 5 and 6 on the GPIO, and you install a bunch of Python stuff, and you write out a small script in Python, and also put it into the startup configs, and you can literally use this button as you could be in a game or whatever. Press this button, Pi shuts down. And if you just have it left running on standby, you press it again, powers the Pi up. Now, what I usually do is after it's powered down fully, I flick the switch. That's in on position right now, but usually I go and it's flicked off. Then, there's no power at all running to it. This power button is on the ground for the earth contact for the USB hub and the Pi itself. They both have their own positives, their own current getting off of this, because this is a 1.8 input, 1.8 amp 5 volt input. The Pi 1 only needs 1.2 amps. Everybody's like, well, you need at least a 2 amp USB power supply for the Pis. Yeah, for the Pi 2 onwards, which have a quad core and more RAM, etc., yes, you do. For the Pi 1s, and I think about the same for the Pi Zeros, is you don't need nearly as much. I'm not doing any Wi-Fi. There's Ethernet on this, so I can connect it and scrape, etc., but I'm not beholden to having to connect as Wi-Fi for any means. I'm not doing any streaming or anything like that. I only plug it in when I need to scrape. The best part is that because I'm using a removable hard drive, which is a USB thumb drive, 16 gig Lexar, I don't even need to bother with the Retropie manager or Samba or anything like that. I just take the thumb drive, plug it in whatever computer I find that's got ROMs, and just put the ROMs on it, and just put it back in. And if I need to, I'll rescan the scrapings. Usually I use self-scraper. It's a lot easier. My Pi 2 is almost done. I got most of the cardboard. I think I pretty much got every bit of the cardboard work laid in. I just have to seal some spots, and I already have some paint laid in. It's not going to be meant to look like, oh, it just came off a store shelf. It's cardboard. It's corrugated 2-ply cardboard. But, I just had fun with it. That's what these things are great for. Like, yeah, if you just want a NES or SNES case, like those 3D printed ones, or the Super Kintaro ones, that's cool and all that. It really is. Like, It's awesome. Just myself, I'm a bit more DIY, and I just used junk that was in my e-waste box. I don't throw out the e-waste. I don't hoard it. I go through my stuff about every year, and whatever's just trash I put into a bag to take up to the tip up there for e-waste. But like anything is useful, like composite video input, these two, this left and right audio off of a DVD external casing, Ethernet cable that I chopped up a bit, all the ribbon wire is from an IDE ribbon. So like old computers, if you're into wiring of any kind, grab the IDE ribbons. They're great for doing stuff, and you just like clip them to size and then peel it down, and it's just like one of those big rolls of 3M ribbon wire like you see Ben Heck using. Also, great last video that he did. I'm not so much a fan of the pie face stuff, but the fact that he made a handheld Atari 800 is great. I might do a handheld at some point. I'm gonna get a couple Pi Zero soon. I'm gonna reuse the modem casing again, but I'm gonna use a Pi Zero with it and a USB sound device and a hub. But I'll have more room to play with them because I won't have a full-size Pi with a full-size SD card sticking off it. I'm going to be using a Pi Zero with a micro SD, and then I'll go from there. Might make it for a relative or whatever. I'll see. They're cheap. They're $7 on Buy a Pi Canada, so I'm going to try to buy a few because I'm going to do some keychain cased Pis for some family members, give them a controller, etc., and then they can just hook it up to a TV. Easy peasy. Cheap little emulation device. But let's cut to really having a decent look at the guts of this thing. Alright, so I'm just using my little Nikon. I'm not using the PlaySport for this, so this is going to be 720p, which is close enough though. But you can see here, I got a Pi 1B here. This is the 512 megabyte iteration. You can see the version number down there, 2011.12. Means, I guess this was made in 2011, but blah blah blah. I bought this about a few months before the Pi 2 was announced. I have two USB connectors done up here. I cut off the cords, just bum cord working anymore because these are still good. So I shave all the plastic off and the rubber, etc., and set up new ribbon cables. So this one's going to the USB hub here, and I actually desoldered one of them here to extend back to go here for a accessory plug, and the other three are just for like controllers and keyboard. I'm only using Super Nintendo style controllers as I'm not using anything that needs a thumbstick, so those are basically the largest amount of buttons I would need. This is just a composite this is an RCA Phono female connector, red one, but it's basically for the composite video. And there's a male plug here. There's an old Radio Shack one. And actually, let's just pull it off very quickly. Oh no, I got to screw them really tight. I just got two wires soldered in there. Making good connections. This is a nice gold tip one I salvaged off of a busted stereo audio set, and this is just a headphone 3.5mm stereo headphone jack. And I've shaved all the plastic off that too and made direct connections here. So yeah, so that's my audio, and it goes out here, and this I got off of a old external DVD/CD drive. So yeah, sorry if the audio, I didn't realize I was leaning away from the microphone. And a USB hub port off of a USB hub. I just was able to take it directly off. A little AC power jack and Ethernet. The Ethernet I just have connected to a ribbon cable. I kept the little things there for color coordination, easily match back to the cable connector here, the male connector. There's another little ribbon cable going just to an extension, just so I can turn this in 45 degrees this way, and it'll or 90 degrees, sorry. I haven't used math in a while. But yeah, I got a 16 gig thumb drive, so I can just pop this out and pop it in any computer and just load my ROMs that way. There's just an 8 gig in here for like scraping, album art, etc. But other than that, I took this from a charging cable as well, and switched from an old USB hub, old momentary switch from like a bunch that I got from Radio Shack years ago. I had one left banging around in a box. These little clips here are from an LED strip kit. I'm gonna mount the LED strips somehow else. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use something else. They're going to be for on the back of a monitor, I think. And a little fan that I got from a power supply, which is just off camera. You can't really see, but nope, still can't see it. But I'll show that last. But basically, yeah, everything's wired up in this ribbon cable is IDE hard drive cable. So what I've done here is there are 3 wires off of this. What is going on is that the center, or positive, has 2 wires coming off, one supplying power directly to the Pi right here, and one supplying power directly to the USB hub. Now the what happened is, what I got done here is both negatives go to here, and they go together, and one single negative, or earth or ground, goes off and goes to here. So in other words, when I flick this switch into the off position, it's off on ground. This is the power off, power on button. This is, instead of me going into the menu and selecting shutdown, I can just press this button and it shuts down the Pi and goes in standby mode. And then I just take the switch and I switch it off, so there's absolutely no power going to it. The little intercooler I got when I got the Pi back in 2014, this was off of eBay. It came with 3 heat sinks and 1 little fan here, and it's powered off GPIO. The 3 things hooked on the GPIO, up to the GPIO, are the little fan, the bigger fan, and the reset button. So that's basically the innards of the Pi. And just really quickly, there's my fan. There's my fan right there. So let's hook this up and play some games. Okay, so I got my Raspberry Pi 1B running, and we're in the main menu here. I'm just using a crappy little USB SNES controller. Did my battery just die? I think it did. Well, while we're here, this may cut out and I may cut out this view, but yeah, we've got the 2600 and the 5200 and 7800 from the Atari console family. We also have the Atari Lynx, Commodore 64, although I haven't got VIC-20 figured out yet. ColecoVision. Then we have the Final Burn Alpha, which is Neo Geo games, although I'm running Neo Geo in Mame, so I might just get rid of this directory totally and, put more Sega CD games or something on here. Spoiler alert, that Sega CD plays fine on this. But Famicom Disk System, or Famicom Computer Disk System, or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But it's pretty cool, and that extra sound channel is really, really cool. Game Gear, of course. I always wanted a Game Gear, my cousin had one. Coffee. Let's get me back in the frame a little bit. Then we have Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color series. Intellivision, which has actually got some pretty fun stuff on there, I gotta say. The Mame, of course. Mame's everything up to about mid-90s. Same thing for Neo Geo, although a lot of newer Neo Geo titles will play on it. It's just there's a few that kind of push the hardware a little bit. Sega Master System. I got one out in the living room, actually. Got to get the HD cables for it from HD Retrovision. Well, not HD cables, really. They're just composite video output, and they don't upscale. They just go from an RGB signal to composite video signal. Different kind of composite, component video, sorry. Terminologies. MegaDrive, or Genesis, by Sega. The MSX series of computers, which is pretty fun. I'm enjoying them. The NES. Another fun system from my childhood. We got one in 89? Yeah, 89, because Batman the movie was out for Christmas then, and I remember we had the living room the way it was with the NES, and we were going to and watching a bunch of movies, because, when we were kids, people gave us movies all the time, because cable sucked in my town. Neo Geo Pocket Color does play in here. Audio's a little choppy. I'm not going to bother to really go over it. PC Engine and PC Engine CD work amazingly. Akumajō Rondo of Blood, or however you call it, but Rondo of Blood for the PC Engine CD works immaculately. There's the Retropie section for Retropie, just the configuration, system stuff, audio, snapshots. Sega CD / MegaCD. Runs pretty good. I got a few titles on here, and like I said, I'll probably put more on here now. SG-1000. Really enjoying it. I wish I had one as a kid. We didn't really have them in our market. I think some areas of Canada got them. I'd say probably around BC. I haven't really checked into that, but you know, imports, the way they go, at least the Pacific, I think, is where the SG-1000 mainly was. In the UK, there was a done a 2-in-1, I think it was. It's ColecoVision and SG-1000. That's because fundamentally they're the same system. I think there's just switching in between switches some configuration in the BIOS or something. But yeah, fun fact on here, ColecoVision and MSX are actually handled on the same emulator. They just have to have a different BIOS, and I discovered that it actually plays better than the ColecoVision emulator that comes on the stock. Super Nintendo, of course, Super Nintendo I grew up with. We got one in '93, so about a year or so afterwards. Mom drove a nice little bargain to our local general store manager. My town is one of those ones in the middle of butt shag nowhere, Canada. It's a bit less isolated now. If you watch Discovery Channel in Canada, or I forget what the channel is in the US, Velocity, I think. There's a show called Last Stop Garage, and shows a garage operating in my town, a reality TV show. And yeah, so that's my hometown. A lot of those people on the show are my relations, actually. But anyway, so our general store was part of a chain, though. It was called Northern. And they had a redemption point system. You spend so much, save your receipts, whatever, and you build up so many points. And Mom had enough points built up for the SNES basic system. They had 2 you can get on redemption. No, they only had 1 you can get on redemption, which was the basic set. You couldn't get the main set, which is 2 controllers and the game Super Mario World. So she drove him the bargain of, I've got cash line with my points. I can buy, because these points are going to buy out the monetary value of something. I will kick in the extra bit of money to get the actual 2 proper deluxe set. And so he went for it. And so that New Year's, or no, just after Christmas, because the wish book was always good till April. So around tax time, Mom would actually tell us, you know, you can pick out one thing out of the wish book for X amount of dollars. I'll get it for you, because birthdays were around then too. And so yeah, we before we even got to do that for the year, we had our post-Christmas present, which is Super Nintendo, because you know we had a bit, you know, growing up. I'm not going to say that we were deprived, and well, we had the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, a Tandy 1000 RL, Game Boy, with a lot of the accessories and quite a few games, and my phone's going off every so often. And my hair's awful. People gotta hush up. Double check that. But, yeah, just text. So, this is also why I like my, my game system that I've made here, because I'm really capturing that era. So, you know, there's Game Boy and all that on there. I'm going to put DOSBox on here. I got space I can have a keyboard kept, and I got a nice IBM Model M that I might even use with it, with an adapter, and then I can play games like for the Tandy, etc. Although the Tandy's keyboard felt different. It was nice. It was Alps keys, I think. It wasn't mechanical. It was full-on mechanical. But yeah, so a lot of the games I spend my time playing on here, except for Zapper games, because I don't have USB Zapper, whatever, yet. Working on it. But I play other stuff that I got to fool around with, but I never really got to go in depth with. Like my cousin Joey, when I was growing up, had a Master System. He also had the SX64, which is the portable Commodore 64. Never got to tool around with that thing at all. It was always just turned off and piled up in a corner in his room. But they had the Master System in the living room, and lunch break sometimes, you know, my mother knew I'd go to Joey's for lunch there, and we'd play Master System, etc. Then we have to go back to school. MegaDrive / Genesis. It was Genesis here, and I knew some people that had them, like family I used to look at, babysit their kids for a bit of extra money in the wintertime. They had a they had Mega Genesis, so I'd play there. Never had the MSX, of course, but my cousin had the TurboGrafx as well when I was growing up in the Turbo CD, so I got to play a lot of fun stuff on there. The CD add-on, I should say, and of course we had a 2600. There's a 4-switch Woody in pieces in the closet there, because I'm rebuilding it for a miniature system, and the case is going to be a new Pi at some point later on. Yeah, you think I did okay with this? I'm actually going to consolize one soon. The Lynx, so I'm going to make my own Atari box. Lynx, I never got to fool around with, but I saw the advertisements growing up, and I wanted to try it out. But the ColecoVision, when I was a kid, like around kindergarten or grade 3, I seen the thing still. No, I'd say about grade 2, grade 1, grade 2. It was still advertised. The Nintendo, the NES, never came out till, never got popular in my region until probably I was in 5th grade? 4th, 5th grade, so that was 88, 89. My school had a lot of Commodore PETs, etc. But, yeah, I'm going to show off how this looks. First, I'm going to pick ColecoVision, I guess. Let's just grab a, what was the one I was playing there the other day? See, there's so many games, so I get spoiled. Oh, let's play Defender. I used to play Defender in the 2600, and I played it on this one as a fairly higher graphical upgrade. And so, Mattel used to make games for the Atari, and Atari used to make games for Mattel, so on the ColecoVision Atari Soft. Ah! You suck. I accidentally selected 2-player. Yeah. I keep forgetting that those things are where they form to. The smart bomb got me. So yeah, I'm in a bit of concentrated. Yeah, blowing up people too. Anyway, so that's ColecoVision on here. Looks pretty decent, and with the 240p shaders that I'm using, it actually helps better. It's not a shader as in like it puts a mask over like some shaders. This shader actually what it does is it gives you the nearest vertical integer. So, you know, stuff actually looks a bit more authentic and doesn't have that quite flickery looking look to it that it sometimes will have on 480i. Well, many times it'll have, and dot crawl, etc. So Famicom Disk System. I was a total idiot when I was playing this. You'll get the instruction of load side B. And I'm like, how do I do this? And I go into the RetroArch controls, etc., and it doesn't seem to work. It's L. You want to flip the disc. Sometimes you have to hit R and then L. But this is basically just a official reskin version. Although some things switch around a little bit. But it's basically a promotional time Mario Brothers with a, I don't know if it's a radio show or a TV show or in Japan. But yo, no 1-up. So, for the most part, except for like a couple bands here and there, it really is reproducing things authentically. The coin block is there. I haven't played through this version too much. I want to play through it at some point just to see the differences. But I remember when we got this game. It was crazy. Alright, before I switch out of this game, I just gotta show one thing. Look at what the stars are. No! Anyway. Famicom Disk System, I wasn't really too... what's this one? Armana no Kiseki? Armana no Kiseki. This one actually does show the extra sound chip that the Famicom Disk System has. Versus the NES in North America, the Famicom Disk System, and Famicom cartridge releases could make use of audio pass-through for extra sound. So, for instance, this is a Famicom Disk System game, and there's an extra sound chip in the Famicom Disk System by design. Like Legend of Zelda, etc. sounds a lot better. So I think what it did was it added an extra voice. But I think it was like PCM capable too. I don't know. I haven't looked into it too much. But yeah, this thing has like a fairly drawn out opening cutscene. Everything turns into a painting. Now loading. Please set disk B and you just... There you go. Now loading. I really think that Nintendo should have made a little bit of a go at having the Famicom disk system here in North America. Well, it would have been the NES disk system, but you know what I mean. So, yeah. So there's that game. To go onwards and upwards. I love how Game Gear looks on. It's just like blown up Master System graphics. Game Boy's pretty fun though. This is the one I used to play when I was growing up? Or is it the other one, just Battletoads? Because there's one that's more or less a copy of the NES, like a port of the NES one, and the other one isn't. It's its own adventure. And like these things that kind of look like, yeah, this one is actually... Ragnarok's World is the later release, which actually is a port of the NES version. Whereas Battletoads on the Game Boy was actually its own thing. That's what I had growing up, and it was pretty fun. I never did finish it. I should put some time into finishing it. But we got a Game Boy the Christmas before we got an SNES. It looked like it was previously owned. Somebody was getting rid of it. I think they just didn't really use it. There was a bunch of games, the magnifier, the light, the battery charger / AC adapter, and we always just kept it in the corner of the living room. It wasn't really even a bathroom item. They had play magazines in the bathroom. I had a big collection of National Lampoon in the bathroom as a kid. That's what you could get away with back in the 80s. But yeah. But I had this Fist of North Star. I'm actually getting some my Game Boy Color screen is all shagged up. I'm gonna get the Ben kit and front light, backlighted. I mean, and then I'll probably get an EverDrive cartridge at some point. But I like playing it on the TV here as well. The ramming, yeah, the X is much more powerful. Piggy with the X. Anyway, so that's the original Battletoads. This is the one I grew up on in Game Boy, although I did play the NES one on rental. Man, that thing's tougher than a $2 steak. Although I can cook a good $2 steak. GBA, if you're using the nearest vertical integer GLSL shader, you actually have to use the separate Game Boy Advance one for that. So let's just throw on... yeah, Mario Kart Super Circuit. For a fun little quick pick up and go GBA game. I'm just burning through a bit of time on this thing, but I don't want to make this video too long, but it's kind of like my Waffle as well. Man, I have this on the PSP as well. Because of course my PSP is hacked. And it's pretty fun. Oh no! Oh no! Anyway, for some reason the button wasn't responding. I tried filming it earlier and I was getting power errors for some reason. Anyway, that's Game Boy Advance. I can't have any distractions when I'm playing a racing game, but there it goes. But yeah, Game Boy Advance looks really good on this too, especially with the shader and Game Boy Color. Intellivision, I'm playing... No, go back up. Astrosmash. I just sit down and play Astrosmash for like an hour sometimes. I haven't really... No, I did. I tried B-17 Bomber just to open it up for that angry video game nerd thing, and I think I filmed it and sent it to my cousin. B-17 Bomber. But oh, this is Astrosmash. Oh. I was playing one day Macross on the MSX. You can go for a long time in that game without getting hit. And you can kind of cheat with the little radar map system that's at the bottom. You can just spray and pray that whole game. Anyway, let's not get too caught up in this. Start and select, by the way, if you don't have a Xbox 360, etc. kind of game pad. If you're just using like an SNES or whatever, just these two. Oh, and there's the... Oh, no! No! You'll see, though, too, in the fine print, you'll see the mode that it sets adjust and change. It's actually one of the things about the shader, set for near vertical integer shader, is that it actually sets your TV to 240p. Well, the output going to the TV to 240p. So, you can actually, have 240p display Willow. I like this game. It's good because it's not flickery and dot crawly and everything like that. It looks better. It looks like it was meant to be displayed, and that's why some people, when they emulate on a CRT and it displays a 480i instead of 240p, they're like, this looks a little different from my game system. Might try out that thing from Mike Chi that allows me to use component video output. I just started playing through this not that long ago. You can't save state in this thing, but you don't take too long for a quarter muncher. You just make the thing hard. Anyway. Money! Oh, you Daikini bastard! Apparently they're gonna do a sequel now. I stole it, baby! I remember, and speaking of childhood, when I was in, I think, 4th grade or 3rd grade, what they would do for a lot of the elementary school students was, ooh, I'm dead. What they would do for a lot of the elementary school students and primary school students, because it was an all-grade school that I went to, actually junior high and high schoolers as well. There was the 4 quadrants, I guess, of the population, and they'd be grouped together they'd have a movie going, or you can just go hang out in your classroom or whatever, and people exchange gifts, etc., ate food, brought lunches, and it was just that morning. Then you went home that afternoon, and then you're out for Christmas holiday. And I remember one year it was Willow, and I'm pretty sure they actually lumped the primaries in with the elementaries, and everybody upstairs just watched Willow, because the upstairs is the primary elementary, and the downstairs is the high school. The school is originally a high school, a junior high and high school. But that's Mame, works pretty good. Master System I showed off before, but I'm going to try a different game. A game that's a little bit different on the Master System versus the Genesis, but still fun. And actually, no, you know what? I'll play R-Type. I was going to play Sonic for the Master System. I was like, no, I'm going to play R-Type. It's actually a pretty good port. Shout out to Daz and Tagster on Arcade Perfect podcast. I listen to their versus takes on this system here. But actually it looks really good, and it plays pretty decently. One thing that one thing that the Master System had dead to rights versus the NES was graphics. And if they had put that FM sound into it on initial release, I bet you that they would probably have a little bit of a better time in competition. Yeah, this is our type on the Master System. It looks great. But yeah, I got to play one when I was growing up. It was pretty decent. It never got to be as popular as over in the UK, but we had a fairly decent amount of Sega fans growing up. There was always a family member of my family that had, not my immediate family, but my extended family growing up that had a Sega device, or people that I knew. My cousin Ozzy actually had a Game Gear when we were growing up, and that had a lot of good games. The X-Men game I used to play a fair amount on that. MegaDrive. Oh, I thought I went too far. You know what? I'm gonna legally play a game here. I have this box. Actually, bought off Splatter Trigger a few years ago. Golden Axe 2. I'm gonna get my Genesis I had died. I got it and used it for a Pi case the first year I had my Pi, but the Walmart here has them for $100. They have those HD Genesis rigs, and you can easily jailbreak them. They have Android on them, and you just do a couple things, drivers on your computer, and then you can just load more games on them. And once you get the footwork down, it's pretty simple. Like, there is, you can see the composite artifacting of it still, in some spots, but versus it in 480i, it's so much better. I don't play Soul Guy. Asshole. Blech. Yeah, Genesis looks and sounds really good on this TV. It on the on the Pi, anyway. Actually, one game that's really good to show is Castlevania Bloodlines, or Castlevania the New Generation. It's called, I think in Europe it's called the New Generation. But, yeah, I think it was My Life in Gaming show that the game itself had an issue with displaying certain elements on the status bars. But, yeah. This one shows a lot better now. We'll just go into the first little bit there. Now, I still get a little bit of horizontal crawl when there's a vertical scroll, but it's not so bad. I just gotta see if there's a better code. Apparently, if you use that RGB or component setup from like Qi, that just goes away. So yeah, you look up at the life bar, the player, and then the enemy. Apparently, the enemy one was harder to see on a regular composite video from a Sega MegaDrive / Genesis. Now, don't know about the reproduction being shown via my capture, but the on TV here it's clear as day. So, but yeah, that's Sega Genesis / MegaDrive. Sega CD works pretty good on this as well, which I'll probably show off in a moment. But oh no, why do I keep doing that? Jump cut. Let's go back. MSX. Not much to show. I can show R-Type on this. The MSX, I figure, really earned that title of like how it's to the Japanese what the 64 is to, say, the UK and a lot of Europe and Australia. I think I was listening to the Press Play and Tape podcast, and they were talking about how apparently the ancestry of the SG-1000/3000, the 3000 being Sega's PC, basically personal computer version of the console, the MSX, and the ColecoVision all share a common ancestry with an Australian computer called the Dick Smith Wizard, I think. Like, MSX still looks pretty decent, but it looks like a lower resolution version of the Master System. With they do no, I think they use palette background tiles. I think is basically what they use to get past the scrolling, because apparently MSX couldn't scroll. So the original MSX, I'm pretty sure. An NES, and well, this thing plays Famicom fairly decent as well. This gave me the wrong cover art for some stupid reason, but this is the Famicom version of Castlevania III. I can't wait for the new animated series sequel to come out now. Let's just see if it loads. No, it doesn't. I must have lost my save. It just sounds so much better. I gotta take. I know I did another video on this, but apparently you can do a mod with an audio pass-through linked to your cartridge for the NES version. You can break it out as a and overlay the new audio channel with a mono cable coming off of like an RCA cable coming off of the cartridge itself. Apparently you have to tap directly into the sound chip that's on the cartridge, and you can break out the extra audio, and then you get one of those you gotta get a pass-through style final RCA plug, because then you can pass through the NES's audio. So they're basically on the same system then. So yeah, one's basically overlaid on the other through analog hardware. Anyway, so NES looks pretty decent. PC Engine is another fun little one. Let's just do, because it has a great soundtrack and it's just a fun game, Blazing Lasers. I'm just keep an eye on the time. So yeah, and yeah, I enjoy Blazing Lasers. It's, my cousin had a nice array of games. The local Radio Shack we had in my town growing up was a private affair, so to speak. They were able to stock stuff besides what just the chain demanded, and the franchise or whatever. So they did have a healthy TurboGrafx section, which, see, they did a push, Radio Shack did, in I think the late 80s, early 90s, for TurboGrafx stuff, and in some areas it caught on, and so the owners just kept up with it. And when they got no support from the head office, they did it themselves, because they used to actually stock import titles, like, was it a friend of mine had, no, my cousin had it, Neonite Terrace, which is basically the Sega PC Engine CD version of Military Madness with Red Book audio. So that was a pretty fun game actually, and it had like a lot of classical overtures. Like "Pomp and Circumstance" is one of the songs used on it. Sega CD, we're gonna do Sonic CD. The Sega CD is really just an upgrade to the Genesis. It bit more graphical capability, etc., etc. But it was a great system. I was always curious about it when I was a kid and when I seen Sega CD advertised. And the one cool thing was I used to go to St. John's for orthodontal appointments. I had to have braces worked on, and you couldn't get it done locally. I had to fly in and fly out every month. And the Wolcos and stuff like that used to have things like this on display, but I never got to try it out. I love the PAL and Japanese version, the opening title music. And this is flawless. Bin and Q. Some people are like, oh, well, I use zips or whatever. I'm like, I'm not bothering. It's just like I throw a big thumb drive on for cheaper than an SD card and have plenty of storage. It loads a little bit slower, but once everything is loaded in memory, it's fine. And then we run, and we're running, and we're flying. So I think I don't like when he goes aerial in this game. He's vulnerable. Not like later Sonic iterations where you can make him spin through the air. There we go. No, you dumb bulldozer looking thing. No, I was trying to go time travel. Anyway, so that's Sega CD. It looks a lot better, like I said. Like, it's actually like the color depth, etc., is a lot nicer on the composite video on this. I've done breaking it out to a VGA monitor, but an LCD VGA, and I've had it on HDMI. Like the first thing I did for the first year and a half, I had this setup when I had my first Pi, which is this one, is I had it broke out to HDMI. I'll just throw a couple more games on before I go. H.E.R.O on the SG-1000. Some people dump on it. I like it. I like this port versus the Atari version. You know, it's a fun game. Sega. That's H.E.R.O, basically. Just keep doing further and further in difficulty levels. Anyway, I was trying to figure out how to fly, and then I forgot. Played it a bit, not a lot, but yeah, Super Nintendo looks great on this, though. That's just one title that I grew up with that was pretty fun. No Nintendo stuff because I don't even monetize anymore, but still. I think these are all translated. I might do the same thing with this for my Pi 2, but I'd like to have my Pi 2 actually for just on the go, so. And there it is, Final Fantasy III. Final Fantasy VI, everywhere else, yes. Durr. But, graphically it looks great. And like I get a little bit of the horizontal element of crawl with something like this, but not much. It's not really as noticeable on Super Nintendo. But anyway, I just want to show it off for a second. Yeah, see, look, perfect. Let's hop out of that. Some Super FX games do, like Mario Land 2, Yoshi's Island, has a little bit of a drag issue. But that's basically it right there, and then, I mean, like, even, like, I'll just hop into a 2600 game. Berserk. There's two versions of Berserk. One actually has a speech chip in it, and I think, yeah, this is the one, Berserk voice or whatever. I can't read that too well because it's already switched to 240p. There's a little bit of artifacting, color artifacting in the 240p mode, but it's... I don't think I hit it in time. But yeah, that's Berserk. So yeah, 8-bits play fine on here. I'm not going to bother with Commodore right now because the load times are still a little bit long. Counter games, even with... I use LR Vice. I don't use the regular Vice. I use LR Vice. So, yeah, I can just load them there, and I have fire buttons, etc. all assigned here. I play like Guy and his sisters. But yeah, I don't reach too far with this. I have a Pi 2 there, and it plays PlayStation 1 and select N64 titles fairly decently. And that one's getting a new case, which I'm going to throw up in a video next. The new case is almost done. I just got to do a couple more things to it, and probably going to add a power down button in that one as well. But yeah, so that's my case, and I did a little bit of waffling, yeah, but yeah, if you got crap just laying around your house in the way of e-waste, and you know how to desolder and solder items, etc., like, this thing is a lot of salvage. It was my Pi 1 that I bought, but like I showed before, a fan from an old power supply, and old AV cables that were cut up, and busted headphone cable, a couple broke USB hubs, busted USB hubs, a piece of Lego plating for the map, although you can just use a CD case if you want to, a bit of hot glue, and an X-Acto knife is all I really use besides like soldering. And soldering iron's dirt cheap, man. These things are fun. It's cool. I don't knock like the cases that you can get from like Super Kintaro and stuff like that. They are cool if you just want to have a case throw your Pi and that has power buttons, etc. But if you want to go totally custom build your own, sky's the limit. You don't need to have a 3D printer. Yeah, the paint job and a little bit of hot glue looks a little bit weird there, but I'm going to touch it up with some paint accents at some point. Probably a lot of black lines drawn in, and yeah, and then add a logo to it. But yeah, it's just an old Davis T gift box with all that thrown in, and it looks fine to me. Yeah, so I did the painting on Friday, and I started cutting pieces on Saturday, and getting things basically together, desoldering the fan here. I was able to desolder the leads directly from the contacts on the fan, so I was able to work from the ground up. This composite connector here, I had to heat gun off, you know, the plastic goo, etc. But yeah, I basically salvaged everything from stuff like I went over in the video. But so I spent my Friday doing that and into Saturday, and then I started throwing everything in together because I had a little piece. There was a little liner with this. It was the perfect size of the bottom, so I was able to sit down and flesh out what went where. And then when I had that all basically fleshed out, I sat down and I started, you know, I had all my parts in front of me. So I got everything on the go, and I looked at the GPIO to double check to make sure I could have my reset button along with my two fans, which I can. And yeah, so I just got myself a little console thrown together with parts. It took me, not being super hardcore with it, about 2 days, although it took me about an hour to refine the power distribution from the DC in, for the DC 5 volts in, to distribute separately to the USB hub and the Pi, because the Pi needs 1.2 and the hub needs about 500. So you're not left with much to play with, but it doesn't, you know, only kick in at 500. It'll top out at 500 because I'm only using controllers, which are, you know, 25 milliamps a piece or so. They're not meant to consume very much power. But all in all, yeah, Sunday I was able to just sit back and play games on this thing. Now and again, I think it's a problem with the Pi itself is I'll turn it on, it'll have power issues. Some of the controllers will basically have issues maintaining power, but other times I turn it on, it's fine. But I think it's the Pi itself. This is my Pi I've had for about 4 years now. This is the original Pi 1B that I'd got about winter of 2014 when I started getting into the Pi properly. The Raspberry Pi, I mean. I have a Pi 2 now, and I'm probably going to get a Pi 3B Plus at some point soon. just to, you know, really upgrade. And I'll probably just get a Super Kintaro case or something like that, or one of the Pi NES NES Pi cases. Just, you know, or if I know somebody with a 3D printer, I'll make something a little bit different. You never know, but I'm probably not going to go cardboard on the newest one. And that one will probably have Cody, all the bells and whistles, etc. It'll be the living room model, and I'll probably even go get some of those 8-bit DOE wireless controllers for it, just to really like make it fairly deluxe. And then, you know, on road trips, if I need something for watching TV, etc., as well. Besides that, just retro gaming, I can, you know, have it for playing Cody. The other ones I don't bother with because, you know, I got stuff here to watch media with. I don't really need that. But yeah, 240p over composite on this thing is a beauty thing to see. And it's on a good TV, it's nice to see. Now, on a larger CRT, you're going to see scan lines a bit better because they kind of stretch them out a bit more, the spacing in between. Scale something or other. I wouldn't mind getting a 9-inch Trinitron at some point. I'm going to see if I can get a 9 or 10-inch color CRT at some point because I'd like to take the consoleized modem casing that I have done, and I'm going to, you know, be improving on that, of course, but I want to get it set up and have a TV to go along with it, a keyboard, and a couple decent controllers, and I'm probably going to gift it to a relative of mine. Maybe my brother. He just retired. But, yeah, so that's my little book pie. I don't know what to call this. Salvage pie, junk pie. It's a pie. And, yeah, it's pretty good. So anyway, I'm probably going to sit down tomorrow and finish up the Let's Play of Master of Darkness on the Sega Master System. I'll probably even just power through and finish the game. Or, you know, do a round each day and then upload them. And then I'm going to go from there and I'm going to start trying out some other stuff on here. Maybe even some MSX. Anyway, stay tuned. Thanks for watching.